Welcome, fellow last placers, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where Chris and I talk about comic books, TV shows, and movies. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about the season finale of Book of Boba Fett. But before we get into that, let's just do some housekeeping. As per normal, we're going to shame Yendi for not watching any of the content that we watch. So, shame.
Shame.
And then we're going to tell you guys to like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We're 11 away from giving away that mouse. Still Series 3 wireless. So go do that so we can give away this mouse and then give away something else. And it'll be our milestone of 100. So once you guys do that, we'll do that and then done. Boom. I know there was a lot of that's in there, but you knew exactly what I meant. Anyway, so getting right into it, Chris, Book of Boba. Season finale. Rodriguez. Again.
Yeah, the show
Episode
the show
7.
ramped up. Ramped up a lot. I love the season finale. I was talking to my buddy Seth at work about it, and I don't know if I think the finale was great in general. I loved it a lot. But was it because of what we saw beforehand leading up to this that made it like, oh my God, this is amazing? Because the whole time it was like, slower paced, took us a while to get there. And then we get there and then everything cuts loose. So that's where I'm stuck in thought. But other than that, man, it was spoilers ahead, by the way, from this point. I don't know if we said that, but man, it was insane. There were some things that I thought I'd never see. And last week, I did tell my buddy Seth at work, I was like, if I see, because with Grogu making the choice, right? I'm like, well, how are we going to start Mando? Because I was like, okay, maybe they'll start there. I said that last week on the show, like, oh, we won't see him. I was like, man, if I see him in the first like 5 minutes of the show, like, what are we gonna do? And sure enough, that X-wing pulls in, and I was like, what the fuck? So, but yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. Great episode, and we will get more into it. But what are your thoughts on it so far?
So I'm a little torn by this because I think this season finale episode was good. There were some bad decisions though that happened that I'm not a fan of the director in any. Some of his shots don't make any sense. One of those shots being when the guy goes into slow motion for absolutely no reason, and everybody knows how
Which one?
much I hate slow motion. When one of those
The chrysanthemum, the mod, the
not
spit.
not the chrysanthemum, the mods, whatever they
Yeah, he spins around.
yeah,
Yeah,
for no reason.
yeah,
No reason.
yeah.
Just no reason at all.
I mentioned that. I was like, what was that spin for? I was like, you're already
But
facing the right way.
it's like for those characters to me were absolutely useless, and like I just don't understand why they were in the show. And then it's not fully their fault, like the characters themselves' fault. It's the fact that what attachments did we have to them? We had no attachments to those characters at all. Like there was no reason to care for them. And you could have built that instead of showing 2 episodes of Mandalorian mid season of the show. So, I mean, before we get into all of that, but I'll just talk about like I think besides that though, I thought the references that they did were really cool. In this episode, there was a lot of like Godfather references. If people who watch Godfather, like if you watch Godfather 1 and 2, you would pick up on some of the stuff like when I forget the guy's name, the mayor's assistant, when he comes out and does the we'll like to give nothing.
Yeah,
Like that's from Godfather. So there's a bunch of like stuff like that, and then obviously they wanted to make Mando and
Cad.
Boba kind of
Oh,
like
okay. Never mind.
no, Mando and Boba were the Western kind of Butch Cassidy's. So I thought those were cool. They had some really good moments though. Like I do think, which is a funny one to me, when they're flying in the jet, when they have their jetpacks and they're flying and they're just like taking people out. I thought that was super dope. But then it goes to make me think, in episode 1, why didn't Boba use his jetpack when the guys were all around him?
Where?
You remember when all the guys with the shield were circling around him and he was
Yeah.
just standing there?
Yeah.
Why didn't he use a jetpack?
I don't know. He also wasted the rocket. They spent the whole episode shooting these two robots, and then he's like, rocket launcher, and I was like, bitch.
I did think it was cool that they made him use his like knee rockets and like all of those things were cool. I thought the fight scenes were cool. Yeah, and again, I mean, we'll get into like I just don't like this whole incorporation that they put with Mando I don't like that they told that story within
right
the show
now, yes, because it took away from that show.
Takes away from the show, and what they should have done is if you wanted it to do it this way, you could have just made. You see, the thing is, I think they try to babysit the audience too much, right? So I feel like we could have still had the season finale of this show exactly the way that it was, without showing those 2 episodes of Mandalorian. And it still would have made sense because, again, I will stick by what I said. Episode 1 and 2. I mean, those episodes 4 and 5. I mean, what is it? 5 and 6 are 2 episodes of Mandalorian. Period. So I literally think we could have taken those 2 episodes and then put those in the Mandalorian. You could have still did the season finale of Book of Boba.
Yep.
The way that it was, and then we would have just figured out in episodes 1 and 2 of Mandalorian how they got there. And it would have just been fine. Because honestly, this show, besides us learning that Boba was a Tusken Raider, and the fact that what did this show accomplish exactly? Like, we're literally at the same point that we started this show at. We have not moved because at the end of the episode, Boba's like, I don't know if I'm cut out for all this. Or like, I don't know if this is something I want to continue doing. So what was the whole fight for? What was that whole war for?
We just needed the survival story, and that was it. Like that was literally.
It literally, and I don't understand it, and I don't get how Jon Favreau wrote this. There's only 2 things that come to mind when I think about this. I think either he just did not want to do this and didn't tell anyone and kind of just sabotaged this so he could be like, hey, listen, let's use the new bounty hunter that we have. Let's use the new person that everyone loves. Let's continue to use this person because we don't want to write any of the older stories. Because that is kind of what they like. I don't think Favreau or Filoni have this thing where they want to be using all the old characters. Anytime they've created stuff, it's been newer content. They've always circled around newer content. They don't actually they like to use the legacy characters sparingly throughout telling their new stories, right? We saw that in the Mando. We saw that in Clone Wars, where like if you watch Clone Wars, you know that even though Obi-Wan and Anakin are in those shows, though they're there just to set up the newer characters.
Yeah.
Like the clones and Ahsoka and all those. So I don't know if this was like a rebellion thing to be like, let's just not do any of these old like the old legacy characters like in this spotlight anymore. Because again, the 2 best episodes of the show were Mandalorian episodes. Like, you know what I mean? That involved Grogu, Mando, Luke, Ahsoka, Cad, like all of those characters, which none of them had any are even Boba were part of episode 1 of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that it had to be that, or again, I don't know. I just don't know how we got to this show.
We also we also almost got another car chase scene. I don't know if you got that vibe.
Oh my
when those
God.
scooters started pulling in, I was like, I saw the frame rate drop, and then I saw the shot going. I was like, this better not be what I think it is.
Listen,
sure enough, but when they pulled up and they get off, I was just like, oh my God, this is so weird.
It just wasn't. I mean, again, but I don't. Like I said, I don't know how we got. I don't know why they would do this to what they did to Boba, right? So I think, but we also learned that Finnick is still a badass, which obviously is, I just feel like you could have done more with these stories
Yeah.
and not had it tied to Boba, right? I feel like you could have still made Boba like an integral part of what everything that was going on without having this to be the title of him, because I don't think Grogu should have made his life choice in the book of Boba Fett.
Mhm.
Like, because that's not where the character was designed. And you also can't just assume that everybody's going to watch both shows, right? Maybe someone's not going to watch those 2 episodes of Boba Fett, because now, like you said, we go into season 3, right? You're going to have to do a recap essentially for those people, and they're going to be like, well, when did all of this happen? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
By the time we get to episode 1.
whenever my thought process already is depending on what Bree wants to do. I don't know if she'll want to watch Book of Boba Fett, but I was just like, I'm at least gonna sit her down and say like, hey, I at least need to see the last 3 episodes. Let's just binge those, and then you'll be ready for Mandalorian. But going into some of the good things, I did like how they're ending certain characters. So in Clone Wars, not Clone Wars, Rebels, when Darth Maul sees Kenobi again, right? Kenobi finishes it there, and you have that moment. So the same thing happens with Boba and Cad. That whole moment when they're talking to each other, and he's like, "I'm not a little kid anymore," and all this other stuff, and he's like, "You've gotten old," and he's like, "So are you," and all this other stuff. Um, I really loved that. So I liked that Boba got to end it, especially with the Tuscan staff that he made, or that he made. And I thought that was a cool moment. I did want more fighting from Cad though, because there was a lot of the same. Like he walks in, shows his hilt, and he's like, I'm about that life, and then doesn't shoot and then puts it back, and that's it. So I'm like, because I feel like some of those villagers that we saw right in that scene, I would have loved to see when things start popping off. I would have loved to see him take out some people, just to see a little bit of combat. We don't need all those people to survive. Like, give me some feeling. Like nobody really got hurt. People were eating shots like crazy, in my opinion. I was like, man, these guys are taking a lot. Like,
Also, what what was Mando and Boba thinking? Like, they're in the middle there,
oh yeah, and they're just
just
getting
taking shots. Like, didn't even decide, let's run for cover. They just said, you know what? Let's use all strategy. Let's throw it all out the window. We're going to stand here and take continuous shots from everyone in here. Like, did anyone decide, hey, let's use cover? Like, until the city kids and the country folk ended up, like the Freetown folk, like that's the only time they used cover. Like when the big droids were coming
also
after
rest
them.
in peace to the wait,
What?
what was the kid? So you have the sheriff and then the deputy, or deputy and then sheriff?
Yeah, I don't remember
Okay,
exactly.
so the kid that gets like 4 rounds in his chest, they completely forget about him. They're like, they killed the other guy in cold. They killed the sheriff in cold blood. I was like, oh yeah, we forgot about the kid already. He put like,
Yeah. He was kind of one of those guys who they didn't want. But yeah, the Cad Bane and Boba stuff was cool because again, you didn't get the real payoff of that unless you watched Clone Wars,
yeah,
and unless you watched the unreleased episodes of Clone Wars,
hmm
which some people might have not like known, like the metal plating in Cad's like head. That's when there was a like unreleased. They didn't even put it in full animation. It's literally like the cartooned ad thing that you can watch where him and Boba actually fight, and then that's where Boba gets the dent in his armor is actually from that. So if you guys ever, I think they're still on YouTube, but there's a pretty much there was that, and then there was a whole canceled episode of when Cad actually takes in Boba, and when Boba was young in Clone Wars. If you guys watched Clone Wars, you'll Cad actually takes in Boba and tells him, and that's why that line, "Oh, you're like I'm not a kid anymore."
yeah.
That's where that comes from because technically they made that all that canon, but if you go on YouTube, you can find some of those episodes, and it's not actually like a real TV episode. It's like literally still in production, but they still have lines. They just never released the episode. So check those out, which are really cool for that relationship. But again, it's interesting to me, like me as a person who's watched everything Star Wars almost, I appreciate that stuff, but I can tell like some of the audience might have been completely lost by that whole relationship
Yep.
because they have no idea what was going on there. Like, you know what I mean? So I felt like even that is another thing that I just feel like you just dropped the ball on because it's like, okay, you can't expect everyone to watch every piece of Star Wars content. Not that I mind it because I do that, and I think if you're into Star Wars, you should watch all of the content. But again, some people don't have time for that or whatever the case may be. But I do think it is a live action's responsibility to give those people a sense of understanding why this character has a relationship with this other character, which you could have used in episode 5 and 6. You could have just showed a brief episode. You could have made a whole episode literally about what I just said with the unreleased episode of showing the relationship because we already used flashbacks. So why don't you continue to use what you've already produced in the show to provide another flashback of Cad Bane and Boba Fett? That would have been a whole other episode instead of using episode 1, season 3 of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why they did this. The choice to me just makes no sense at all, and it's going to frustrate me until the end of time.
Also, I mean, it's the end of Cad. Well, yeah,
Maybe.
I'll say maybe because he does send out a beacon, and right now the rumors is that he sent it to his droid. Starts with a T.
No.
Forgot his droid's name, but if he sent it to his droid, that means his droid was with somebody else. So I don't know who we're thinking of. Me and my friend Seth were talking about. He brought up a good point that they should make just make a bounty hunter show and just give us stories, because technically we were talking about who was still alive in the bounty hunter group that we know, and Bosk is never considered dead, so he could be somewhere out there. I forgot the human guy's name. That one starts with the D, or Chrysanthemum, but somebody's with that droid, and I hope we see what happens. From now on, unfortunately, like I said, I'm a big Boba Fett fan. Actually, the other day, I pointed out, or Bree pointed out, that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 Boba Fetts in my office right now. Okay, so I don't think there should be another season. If he's going to show up, do what you did with Mandalorian. Give him an episode maybe, and leave it at that. Don't keep trying to push this story, because it's only going to get worse. Especially with the ending that we have. It's kind of open ended right now, so he can't show up in Mandalorian instead of just.
Well, that was the whole point. Yeah, him saying that whole line was basically so that I don't have
ties here
to Tatooine.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean. That's why they said it. But again, for me it feels. What was the, like? Obviously, you wanted to show that Boba wants to continue to have like a team or whatever the case may be. I just feel like all of the choices in this show were just bad choices when it comes to Boba Fett. Like, I just feel like you could have done so many different things so much better for him than having like this whole like convoluted, like, we're on Tatooine brief thing. Like I said, the Cad Bane thing is one thing. Like, there's so many different elements we could have went into. I do think the Rancor thing was.
I was just about to say, the one thing they did right. I want a picture. I saw the still image at the end of him on the Rancor, like riding the Rancor. You know, the paintings and stuff. I was like, I want that. That's what I want. I was like,
the Rancor
that was
thing was
so
amazing.
cool.
And I think, and it was good enough because we like kind of forgot about the Rancors. Like, at least I know I did.
I did not. I was waiting for. As soon as I saw him, I was like, he's gonna be riding. I knew. Yeah. I was like, he's gonna be on top of this thing. I just wanted Danny. I thought I'd see Danny Trejo again, but
yeah. I like, honestly, I completely forgot. But also, can you blame anyone who did forget? Because we got 2 episodes of a completely different show. And
Oh
I will
man.
stick by that until the end of time again, because I feel like Grogu's decision should not have been done in Book of Boba Fett. Just all of that. Like, there's so many like dialogues and things that just went like, I would have liked to know what Luke had to say. Like, was Luke disappointed?
Because as
Was
of
he
right now,
like,
Luke is a douche.
well, no,
I think
why?
so. He kind of gives off a jerkish vibe with the past two episodes.
No, no, I
I
don't
think
think.
so. I think like I mean he's trying to learn how to teach, but in my opinion, I was like, man, Luke kind of seems like a jerk, and he's like, oh, we can't have time. He's really trying to follow the path, even though he himself didn't really follow that path. Like he had ties, he had a lot of stuff going on that he was telling Grogu like, hey,
He
you
found
can't
that
do
out
this.
after though.
Exactly. I know he found out
But then, like,
afterwards, but it was just one of those things where I'm like you could be a little sympathetic with this thing, but
yeah, but I mean, no, because he knows that like for him to be for the way that he felt was proper was to do it the way the Yoda did it. And that's exactly what he was trying to do. So
yeah.
like I don't think what he was doing is like he was just training the way that he learned from the only teacher he had. Like, you know what I mean? So I think I don't know. I felt like again, Grogu being like I felt like Mando and Grogu were just too much of a presence in this show and they shouldn't have been. Like, you know what I mean? Again, like I feel like that show has its own time, it has its own place. And granted, I'm happy they were showed up because there were the highlights of the of the show, but that's a problem. Like, you know what I mean? The fact that Boba Fett or any of the characters that got introduced within his direct like line weren't like the focal points of the show is a problem. Like all of everything that happened that we considered like a movement part of the show all happened because of Mandalorian. Like all of it like Mando, the like him getting like a new ship, like Grogu making his decision, like all of those were Mando story points. Nothing that happened to Boba was important to us.
Yeah.
Like nothing. It didn't
Um
move the need. It didn't tell the story, and I felt like that's unfortunate because now like people are going to feel that way about other characters. Like they're going to be like, oh well, if they couldn't do it for Boba Fett, then why should we try to make another story for Thing? And when you think about it, this is technically you could consider this because, like I said, for me it was a disappointment. You can consider this the second disappointment where you tried to use an older character because the same thing happened with Solo. So
yeah. What was I gonna say, man? I feel like we're gonna see more of the I guess we'll call him Two Tails or whatever, the negotiator for the mayor, because I feel like he's gonna be with the mechanic. I felt like he's just gonna be that comedic relief, and I'd like to see those two together. I also wanted to point out when everybody betrays Boba Fett and they're all in the sectors, that got brutal really fast, like really fast. Chrysanthemum's fight, I was like,
yeah, he was
geez. The
he was
Gamorrean
literally
guards,
fighting for his life.
yeah, the Gamorrean guards getting thrown off the edge, which I felt like that edge
Again,
popped out of nowhere. And
not
just my
even
opinion.
that.
But I was
The
just like, holy.
Gamorreans can fight.
They didn't throw they didn't do anything. They were just
They
like,
did two swings and then fell
and then
back.
backwards.
Like,
Oh
can we get
man.
rid of the characters better? Like, how you had them whooping ass in episode one, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, oh, these like these civilians that don't really fight that much are just gonna push us off the back. And it's like, there are just some choices, like I said again, that were made here, and I just don't fully grasp why we made some of these choices. So it wasn't, like I said, for me just a bit disappointing. Not the episode, because I think the episode was great. I think I love that they showed Grogu doing being able to use the Force to calm animals down, which is, if you're a Rebels fan, Ezra did that. He used to do that a lot. So that's really cool. And I think I was a big fan of a lot of the callbacks, as someone, like I said, who's watched a lot of the Star Wars content. Like they had Rebels callbacks, they had like Clone War callbacks, like to call back to like unreleased episodes. Like they really dug deep for some of these like story things that now are canon because it's in the live show. So as far as like I said for Cad, I don't think he's gone. I do think we'll get Cad back at some point. Maybe like you said, we'll get like a bounty hunter show. There's plenty of shows that can go off on this, and I think one of the things Star Wars now needs to do is I feel like we need to just stick to the characters that people don't know. Like I feel like we have Ahsoka, which is coming. We do have Obi-Wan, and I would like. I'm obviously gonna watch Obi-Wan, but then again, now we come into this turn of like, what are we gonna do with Obi-Wan? Like, you know what I mean? What is this? What is that show going to be about? And I'm very interested because I'm one of the like I love Ewan McGregor. Probably the only thing that I like from, and I'm really excited to see Hayden Christensen be
Get his
able to
chance.
redeem his
Yeah.
performance. Like, you know what I mean? With hopefully what is better direction. I don't know if they released the director's list on that yet. I would love to see that. I hopefully, if the dream is that it all says Dave Filoni written and directed. That's my dream, but it might not happen. I'm sure he'll get an episode, being that he had one of the best relationship. He showed one of their best relationships in Clone Wars with Obi-Wan and Anakin, so which was better than any of the pre stuff. And usually that's where I start my star. That is where I start my Star Wars. So I don't watch the prequels. I just start with Clone Wars, and then you move on from there. Prequels unnecessary. You can just watch Clone Wars. You'll get the gist of everything. Then you go Clone Wars. You go right into Rogue One. There you go. You don't need to see any prequel. I mean, you go Clone Wars, Rebels, Rogue One.
I watch it all.
Boom.
All right, but I mean, I guess we'll do our favorite part, and let's give 1 out of 10 for this series.
Oh. Well, my favorite part of like I said, the Rancor part was pretty dope. It took me by surprise because I forgot about the Rancor just because it was
The
kind of
fact that
like
you
I
saw
don't,
the whole Rancor too. It's not like
yeah,
not the
and they
top
didn't
half,
cheat
and
it.
they did.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was great.
they didn't cheat the Rancor. Like
Yeah.
he was doing like full attacks. He was throwing people. We heard the Wilhelm scream. I always love when we get one of
Yeah.
those. So I love that they're bringing that back because the sequel trilogies, did away with some of it. But I love that. I love that Rancor scene. I thought it was cool to just see, Boba coming through in a Rancor. Like it was one of his really cool moments. Like highlighting who he was, and because he said he wanted to ride it, and then he got to ride it and just be a badass on it. So that was my favorite part of this episode. The series itself. Oh man.
Well,
So
before you give it the number, I'll say my favorite part. Is the moments that Boba and Cat talk to each other, because those are my two favorites. It just is something that's very close to me, and I loved seeing that live action. So, and then yes, of course the Rancor was just badass. Yeah, you don't have a piece of paper and a pen, do you?
no, why do we need
Okay.
a pizza?
I was gonna say to show it at the same time so you don't
Oh,
influence,
no.
but it's all good. All right.
I mean, you can say yours first because I already got my number. I don't have my number, but I don't. Say your number. Go ahead.
Oh, mine's I give it a 7.
Oh, that is too high for me.
Too high?
Way too high. Because again, if we're judging the series and what it was supposed to be, you know what I mean? I can't give it the 2 Mandalorian episodes. I'm not going to give it the 2 Mandalorian episodes. It is not fair. It's show should have been 4 episodes, 5 maybe. Okay? Maybe 5 episodes. Tops. Not counting those 2 Mandalorian
I guess I'm
episodes.
going off of the Game Informer thing where like a 7 is a good. It was
Yeah,
good.
but no. 7 is like above average. It's like because 5 is fair. 5 is like you are a fair shot.
I'll go.
Like, you know what I
I
mean?
say 6.57. That's where I'm gonna go. I'll keep it
Okay,
there.
I would give it probably like I don't think it was good. Besides the Mandalorian stuff, like I honestly can say that I enjoyed episode 2. Episode 4 was I enjoyed. and then there was 2 Mandalorian episodes, and then it was the season finale. So I guess I think I'd give it like a 4 or 5, honestly. It sounds low, but I just, again, I feel like that the highlight of the show had nothing to do with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Like, to me, because again, if you asked us what your favorite episode was, what was your favorite episode?
I ain't saying, don't do this to me.
Exactly. So my favorite episode was 5, which was literally episode 1 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
It was,
yeah.
and 6 was a masterpiece. I mean, 5 and 6 were literally just the episode. I mean, 6 was my favorite. I will say that. But 5, like, those were the ones that I enjoyed the most
Yeah.
to me, because that's what I wanted to see. I mean, besides, Cad showing up, which I loved, but again, that was nothing to do with Boba except their relationship. So I did think they could have done it better. I am interested. We did get a release date for Obi-Wan, which is the 25th.
The day after my birthday, and also the
Yeah.
day that Star Wars came out.
Yeah, but it's also Disney Plus. I got some questions, because we're going a long time without any new Star Wars or Marvel content, and we were supposed to
Thought
be
we
at
got
the
Moon
point.
Knight in March.
Yeah, in March, a month from now.
It's the 11th. That's not too bad. Did they say
It's
what?
March 30th.
Oh,
It's like, yeah, and we were supposed, and which makes no sense to me, because Moon Knight is dropping the first 2 episodes on the same day. Why couldn't you just give us one episode earlier? Because it's not going to be in the way of anything. So I don't know why they did that either, which makes zero sense.
I
But
don't know.
we'll talk about that when those get there. We'll have, so that's pretty much the wrap up on.
Also, wanted to say real quick,
Fett.
excited to see what the sheriff will look like after he gets modded. So
I think
yeah,
he'll look the same as what they did with Fennec.
yeah.
They'll just put like a thing so he could use, and that was also like, that was cool. But it was kind of like, it was a little underwhelming too. Like, I think Chase had a great ideas. Like, I think they should have mentioned Obi-Wan, or had the Obi-Wan thing, because you're going to be on Tatooine at that point. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe something you could have like referenced. I know Obi-Wan's not alive, but I'm just saying, like, something that would have like sparked that thing.
Hmm.
So I don't know what we do after that anyway. So you know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. We'll definitely, obviously, when it comes out, we're going to be doing our debriefs on it. So please check us out. Yeah, so I think that's going to be it for Book of Boba. Chris and I think now are going to Moon Knight, like I said, won't come out till March. So we're going to have some content in between that. We'll probably do our Marvel
Peacekeeper.
ranking, Peacekeeper review. Because we'll do we'll wait till Peacekeeper finishes, guys, so we can just do it all as a season.
We got
and then
Batman
just review the
coming.
season. Batman's on the 4th of March, which is a couple of weeks away. We got the ending of Demon Slayer coming up, so we'll do that, because boy, that last episode of Demon Slayer.
Didn't watch it.
Oh,
I'm
the
binging
animation.
everything.
Oh, anyway. So we'll definitely get into that, guys. Thank you again for joining us. If you like the content, hit the like button, subscribe, tell a friend. Let's give away this mouse, please. So we want to hit 100.
We got more stuff
so
to
we
give
can
away,
this
man.
I know we got other stuff. We got pops. We got like a bunch of doubles of stuff like that. We're just ready to be like, here, guys. We appreciate you for appreciating us. So like, comment on what you guys think about the episode. Give us your rating, 1 to 10. Let us know what you guys thought about it. And if you stuck around to the end, thank you. So until next time, guys, we will see you soon. Fire team out.